It's been a bad year for pedophiles. Peter Nygard, Jean Luc Brunel now, and of course Ghislaine Maxwell, Harvey Weinstein, Claire Bronfman, and Keith Raniere. They're all in prison or dead like Epstein. And I've got a great guest. We've got Fred from the French Connection. That is con action, not a French way of saying connection. It's a perfect name. He's a brilliant researcher. We're going to get all into Jean Luc Brunel since he was just arrested. And I also think that of the whole Epstein saga, the sort of Paris and New Mexico wing are the most underspoken of sections of it. And there's a lot to say. We got to get into this. Welcome, mon ami. We have wonderful news today, don't we?
Fantastic.
It is.
Hello.
Hello to the chat. By the way, the entropy link is coming in 2 seconds. You can shekel chat to us what you want. Be within reason about what you say. I might change what you say a little bit if you get too off the wall, but we'll still answer your questions. That's there. Share this around. 36 watching. That means notifications did not go out. Imagine my lack of shock. No problem. I'll stick it on Discord. We'll get it going. Fred, how you doing, man?
I'm very good, Ryan. It's a pleasure being here with you. It's longer videos, so I'm glad we managed to find a time to get together. And it's a beautiful day. You know, it's Disobedience Day today in France. And absolutely delighted with the latest news, as you were just mentioning. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to unpack a little bit what's going on and this whole saga, you know, because it's been a very interesting year. And a lot has been said, but I think we need to narrow it down now to be productive because they are falling down one after the other, you know, so it's something is happening and we need to explain what's happening.
That's right. So for people not in the know, gosh, where do you start? Okay, there's this Israeli cutout, Jeffrey Epstein. He lived in multiple places, New York, Florida, the Caribbean, France, New Mexico, and his name is on some properties in Colorado and other places, but he was running an international kidnapping and pedophile ring. He had principal partners, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's now in prison, and one of the partners also who ran a couple modeling agencies, which was stovepiping victims to Epstein and others, was this character, Jean Luc Brunel. That's not even his real name, but he starts off in the 70s, and I'll give it to you. Some background on Jean Luc, because this is the guy who was recently arrested. This is very, very important. Even though he's 74, they got him. They knew who he was for a long time, but they just rounded him up 2 days ago. Why do you think that was, first of all, the delay? Because I think we agreed on that earlier, but...
Well, the delay is like any investigations. First of all, in France, they have the habit to be very discreet. They do not provide any information. Doesn't mean they don't do the work, but obviously they have one chance, and they need to get it right, if you will. So the idea was mainly to have Jean Luc Brunel watch over. They talked to him. At the end of 2019, just a quick, you know, informal chat. The police had a chat with him just to see what was the fuss about, why his name was popping everywhere in different defamations and affidavits in the United States. And then obviously the Epstein saga story got really bigger. Then we had the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell, and it goes without saying that the French government was under tremendous pressure to come up with something. The problem is that most of the informations were pretty much sealed already. Epstein was already under investigation a long time ago in France. You cannot live in Paris and thinking that as a billionaire or, you know, the kind of person you are with the people that you know, you're not going to be investigated if you live in Paris. Now, the French people wanted to make sure that, and especially the OCR VP, which is the official body in charge of the inquiry with the French court, the Parisian court, the prosecutor office in Paris. So they wanted to collect the data. They wanted to be able to bring sufficient information and evidence that crimes had been committed. So you know, we must remember we're facing a judicial system that needs evidence in order to arrest someone in France. So when you arrest someone in France, you got 48 hours, like pretty much in the United States, you know. So if you got nothing to show for, it's going to be very, very difficult to press charges and put these guys behind bars. So they needed to get a lot of evidence. They needed to obviously gather the intelligence that is required to make sure that when we have him behind the bars, that it can stick, you know. So that's probably, I think, what they were facing. And then we saw, obviously,
plus I'd add to that the wealthiest, well-paid lawyers in the world are going to be on his side. And you do not want this guy weaseling out on a technicality or any reason to get away. So they got to have a solid case. And when you know where he is, it might be better to follow him around for a little while than to just go and immediately grab him.
That's right. And the logistic of Jean Luc Brunel is quite interesting because obviously a lot of things were said about him being in Brazil, being in, you know, many different places. I've heard so many stories and so much nonsense. But people lost their logic in that sense. You know, when you're a French person, you committed a crime abroad. Clearly, France is a paradise for you because of the non-extradition law. So it's very simple for him to stay close to his family, close to where he feels comfortable, where he has support. And Jean-Luc Brunel has a lot of money. He had a lot of money. He sold his property in Avenue Hoche in France, and obviously all the money that he set aside, he didn't pay any taxes for years in the United States, you know. So he had a lot of money aside. So getting the best lawyers, using the channel that is built during the course of his life and all the connection that he had. So it's very easy for him to be protected. But we followed him. The investigators in France followed him. We had a pretty good clue where he was, who he was with, who was helping him, and his lawyer, this lady, Miss Dreyfus, Corinne Dreyfus-Smith, was basically wanted to clear the air and saying that he was not hiding. Of course, he's not hiding. He's in France. Where would he hide? And there's no charges against him.
He's like Roman Polanski, another Dershowitz. Another man Dershowitz represented who raped little kids and just fled to France, and nothing was done.
Polanski, I mean, we have a list quite long, you know, in France of people that are simply hiding here because for some reason, and I will explain it a bit later, you know, France has kind of look into the pedocriminality as not a big thing. You know, this has been going on for a long, long time. It's actually part of our history. And the people that have done their research on the history of pedophilia in France, they will have to go back to Louis XV. So this is something extremely old. And in the oligarchy, in the you know, the high sphere of the world, the people in power in France always had this connection with children, and in very powerful families there's real it's like almost a cult, you know. They have the way of grooming their kids from a very young age, and having 12-year-old kid already ready to be trafficked, to be shared with other friends, and this is something that's happening in France, and it's been happening for quite some time. But that's why when we're hearing kids 12-year-old triplet being sent by Jean-Luc Brunel to Jeffrey Epstein,
the birthday gift,
it's not shocking for the French. It's really not shocking because we know the model agency, we know this world very well, and we know that they recruit these kids from 12 years old, 13 years old. So they are hanging around with 40, 50 years old men. They're going to parties in Saint-Tropez. They're staying weekends on yachts. They've been spoiled. They've been groomed. So it's not a big deal. We know about it. The problem is what our government is doing about it. And that is the big questions. Why they've been waiting for so long to make their move, and what triggered that move. You know, that's where we are. And Wednesday was a fantastic news. I know that you were aware that this arrest was about to happen.
That's why I was getting you on the show right beforehand. I think you probably knew as well.
Yeah, I was waiting for the call, actually. I was like, he's probably going to get it.
Well, I got banned on Twitter, like, just before it happened. And I got banned on Patreon the day that Ghislaine Maxwell got arrested, right? That's kind of a signal if I didn't know it was going down. I'm like, did I just get banned on something? Oh, something's about to happen with the Epstein case, right? But I had Chris get hold of you on my behalf, or to I wanted you on. I wanted to have you scheduled on because they're about to get Jean Luc Brunel. I gotta get Fred on the show. Somebody in chat asked, "Is this the Victoria's Secret guy?" That's Les Wexner. There is a relationship there, but he's not the Victoria's Secret guy. This is the Karen Models, and then MC2, and then the Identity, and a couple others that he made. You know, basically, a company burns its reputation and name, just like Blackwater, right? Blackwater, everyone knows, is the mercenary group. They changed their name to Z, to Academy, whatever they are now. You know, they flip-flop names, and he tries to take his name off it, but it's all the same officers and stuff. And if you dig at it, it's the same group of criminals. But let's walk through that a little bit with MC2, if you have time for that. Like, how did he get it going?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and Leon Black and all these guys have played a tremendous role in financing this kind of operations. These are names, you know, Les Wexner and Leon Black. I mean, I really hope that very quickly we're going to see these guys basically giving and being deposed, you know, under oath, because they have the information. They know exactly what's going on. I mean, you know, it's a story of logistics, it's a story of money laundering, it's a story of big money, and it's a story of people that simply have absolutely no fear of the justice system, whether it's in the United States or whether it's in France. They just don't fear it because they are protected, they have the channels, and more importantly, let's not forget, this is a blackmailing operation. Right. So it doesn't matter if you are an MC2, if you're a model scout, you're running a brothel with kids. That's what you're doing. And you cannot do that in front of the intelligence community, insulting the intelligence community and saying that nobody knows what we're doing. Everybody knew. The industry, the model industry knew, the fashion industry knew. Paris in the 70s, end of the 60s, 70s, early 80s, everybody knew that this model agency were basically taking advantage of these young kids basically coming from around the world, mainly at the time from Scandinavia. There was all these little girls, 14, 13 years old, you know, dreaming of a modeling career. There was a huge amount of money poured by the fashion world, you know, all these fashion designers, these big fashion houses were pouring a lot of money. So it was so easy for them to make money. And this model agency were popping out like there was no tomorrow. You know, the money was there, it was easy money as long as you have the right scout. And Jean Luc Brunel was an opportunist. You know, he comes from a very good family. Jean Luc Brunel Ben Chamoul, that's his name. So he's changed his name in 72 and so on. I mean, everybody knows the story. But what's important to understand that Jean Luc Brunel doesn't come from the street. He comes from a very, very wealthy family. The father was in real estate. These guys were making a lot of money. They're still in the real estate today. Arnaud Brunel is in the real estate, and I'll talk about him a little bit later on. But his upbringing was about going to the right school, meeting with the right people, and then more importantly, sharing time, getting into the model industry, the pageant industry, organizing a lot of beauty contests. Even before getting into real work with modeling agency, he was going to South America to organize pageant beauty contests. That's what kind of got him, you know, onto the ladder of the modeling industry. That's what Claude François, the famous French singer, got him to work with him for Girls Model, because he thought that this is the guy that's going to bring, you know, that's going to build up my portfolio, that's going to allow me to succeed. And then we all know that this didn't work out quite well. Went on to work with Paris Planning, with François Lanaud, sorry, and François Lanaud gave him a great chance. That's how he made his name. This is where actually Jean-Luc Brunel will meet someone that everybody's heard of, which is Gérald Marie, which happened to be the head of the European operation for the elite model agency. So these guys knew each other very well because they both work at the same time for Paris Planning with François Lanaud. And then François Lanaud will keep Gérald Marie to work with him as his main scout. Jean-Luc Brunel will basically will leave France for a while. He went to live in Ibiza, on the island of Ibiza in the Spanish water. And then he had a restaurant, a bar there. He was partying. He went there with his wife. He'll come back to Paris to work with Karen's model, leave his wife behind. Osberg was irrelevant. Or I think probably she knew exactly what Jean Luc Brunel was all about. You know?
Had to,
so anyway. That's what he did, and this is where the Jean Luc Brunel stories really starts. You know, this is where we're starting to hear about Jean Luc Brunel.
Then he meets
and not
Glenn
in
Maxwell in the 80s, and Glenn Maxwell is already part of this pre-existing network with the Mega Group and so on. So he's a scout for Karen models at the time, high-level scout. He meets Maxwell. She introduces him to Epstein. We're going fast on this, so we're not going to get lost in the details. Epstein starts fronting him lots of money to start up an American modeling chapter, MC Squared, different from Karen, but they bought out the existing Karen section in the U.S. They turn it into MC2 Miami, 2004, 2005. They set up another one in New York, but MC Squared started in the year 2000 with Ofer Raphaeli in Israel and Tel Aviv, and they still operate there. Correct. And many of their same models, I think 20 out of 67 or something that I found are listed on their website, are from MC2 Tel Aviv, are in the new MC2, the newly branded MC2s like Identity and so on, right? That's the quick on that. And I guess we could talk a little bit about the properties. The real estate in New York does... it goes through Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, but if you really scratch at that, it ultimately ends up being Les Wexner again, which is who gave Epstein his house and gave it to him literally for $1.
Exactly, a lot of straw men in this story. You know, Mark Epstein is as a sleep partner. They opened a company with Jeffrey, but there was mainly Les Wexner behind. Right. So Les Wexner is the person that owns actually all these apartments in New York where the kids were basically stuck in. You know, it was just a open bar kind of brothel. You know, high level for very high spending people. You know, obviously in wealth and people obviously with tremendous power. So
they have some rivals in New York real estate business that people might be familiar with. So you've got on one side this clique between the Les Wexner, obviously now that's the Victoria's Secret LL Brands guy, Les Wexner and Mark and Jeff Epstein and the Maxwells, including Robert Maxwell, on one side. This is sort of left-wing Zionism, and then on the other side there are political rivals, or Rupert Murdoch, who is a media rival of Robert Maxwell back in the day, and the Kushners, who are real estate moguls in the Trump administration. They're all bad, by the way. That's just the right-wing Zionism. They favor Netanyahu. Epstein was more of a Ehud Barak and Ehud Olmert kind of guy. They're flying around on his planes. This is where their money ultimately comes from. And so you see a little tug of war between right and left-wing Zionism all over the globe. This isn't a Presbyterian issue. But yeah, so Mark.
Yeah, you could add Ryan. You could add Andrew Farkas as well, because he's a real estate tycoon as well, and he played a very important role in the Caribbean as well. You know, and we know who Andrew Farkas is. Anybody that looked into these guys, we know that he's developed a huge amount of real estate and obviously all this marina development in the Caribbean. But I'll talk about that a bit later. You know, this guy was involved with Andrew Cuomo and, you know, all these guys behind here.
Who is it now accused? Andrew Cuomo has been accused of sexual deviancy too recently in the news. Right? He tried to deflect that. He's like, oh, we're going to ban Confederate flags in New York. Like anybody in New York was buying those anyway. But he's under fire. Oh, God, I hope they get Cuomo. That whole family's messed up.
You know, he has a company with Jared Kushner. You know that. He's they invested a block of apartments in Manhattan. And I think the company, if I remember well, they call it a startup, a real estate startup. But I think it's called Cater. Look it up.
I think it's
a company.
It's baffling that Charles Kushner is a convicted felon that set up honey traps that went all as high as the governor of New Jersey, right? Jim McGreevey and so. And it's just, with all the idiot attacks on Trump about Russiagate and Ukraine, all the stuff the Democrats are actually guilty of, not once did they bring up Charles Kushner and the honey traps and all that, because that's like, oh, you do that, we'll do that too, and you're going around with us. They can't assault them on that because they're guilty of the same things. But you would think, oh, well, the president's son-in-law's father was a felon that set honey traps on his own brother-in-law was blackmailing governors, was illegal campaign finances, and the whole, and got convicted and went to jail, and then brings some white-collar criminals out of jail with him and starts it up again, and now they're making peace deals. Whatever. Yeah, it is just rotten all the way to the bottom. But if we get into all that, it'll never end. I have a film about it called Trump Sinus Ball and Chain. So if you want to see that side of it, go into that. But we're gonna try to stick to Jean Luc Brunel's thread in the middle of this. I would say he's the number 3 guy as far as actually arrestable. Not in that billionaire class. That we could possibly have gotten after Maxwell. So this is really exciting. He knows a lot of people and he could squeal on everybody.
Yeah, and he's expendable. I think there's also something that needs to be understood, and that's my personal conviction after researching this for quite some time. And in the ladder of importance, Jeffrey Epstein has always been painted as the main guy, but it's completely defying the logic, because Ghislaine Maxwell comes from oligarchy. She comes from extremely rich background. The father is an MP in the UK. He's a billionaire. He's connected to pretty much any freeloaders intelligence agency you can find around the world. So these guys,
how many people do you know have the chief of Mossad read the eulogy at their funeral that aren't from Israel?
Exactly. This is not the common Joe. This is a big guy, and we are meant to believe that his daughter is gonna be somehow falling in love with Jeffrey Epstein, and this guy is gonna go and set up a sex trafficking ring on an intercontinental basis, and Jeffrey Epstein is the big guy. I don't believe in this story for one moment. I believe the central person in all this is Ghislaine Maxwell. Right. I've always said it from day one. Epstein was just basically a con man. He was someone that has the ability to convince people. He was someone that was extremely ambitious and prepared to do anything devious or nefarious in order to make money. That's what Epstein was interested in: money, power, and to be able to release his ideology. Someone extremely racist, by the way. I've spoke to people that knew Epstein well. They told me this guy was so racist. It's not even funny.
And a eugenics level racist, by the way. He was very charming, but he wasn't some super genius. If you look at his Ponzi schemes at Tower Records, or not Tower Records, Tower Financial, nothing to do with Tower Records, nothing at all. So I just misspoke. Tower Financial, or his Ponzi schemes with liquid funding and Bear Stearns, they're not that complicated. It's just normal pump and dumps, creating commercial papers, sticking it in, by lying, getting the rating agencies to lie, or having a subsidiary hold the debt temporarily and then paying them back at the first of the next month while, depending on when the inspectors came. Stuff that's just like low-level mob stuff that anybody could teach you. But he constantly got away with it. All his partners would get in trouble and nothing would happen to him because he was tight with Maxwell, and Maxwell has secret support from a state.
From Bill. She was a good friend of Bill. She's
and the president.
When Epstein went down, she was still invited, to weddings. She was still invited to parties and dinners, and she's never stopped being a friend of the Clintons.
And the royal
family. I think they didn't really care about Epstein. Epstein was the structure guys. He had the money with Wexner gave him some of the money stashed away, with Offenberg, so the money came from many different arenas, and I know you've done a lot of work on finding out where the money comes from, but it's pretty obvious to me, this is a large, money laundering operations, and anybody that has toxic assets who's going to look at someone that has a structure, a kind of outfit, in these Caribbean islands, with offshore companies and good lawyers, because lawyers are all over the place in this Epstein saga.
Yeah, Darren Endyke is the guy for creating the front companies. Like, Epstein didn't do that. Darren Endyke's the one, like Gratitude America, and that was the main of the top 3 he was using, was probably Gratitude America. You mentioned Leon Black earlier. I mean, he popped in $10 million that we know of, just there. But that was, they created one called, the Florida Science Fund, or Institute, the Florida Science Institute, temporarily, just during that sweetheart deal from 2007 to the end of till 2009, it got dissolved, and it was just a way of laundering money from the Caribbean into this front company in Florida, which then paid off the police $128,000. And then Darren Endyke visits him 38 times while he's in jail, but he isn't really in jail because 6 days a week he's on work leave. Yeah. Da, 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 da. And he's the same lawyer they go to for everything. So these guys, they're the brains in this operation. I agree with Weinstein about Epstein. He was a cutout. He was a charmer and expendable to a degree. He actually worried the Mossad was going to kill him. Told people that because he messed up so bad. Defended his stash.
I like his story where he said he was looking at his art piece, you know, and there was a little cameras in there, and he felt that Epstein was already watching him. And that sounds, I mean, you know what you're dealing with, you know, when you enter a house like this in Manhattan, which is probably the largest private house in Manhattan. It
used to be
talking about an alleged hedge fund manager that, you know, cannot sustain a very technical, you know, discussion. So he's going to get caught very quickly by professionals, and he had no real big, he was not a big name in Wall Street, you know. So this was just, you know, an operation. Epstein played the role. Ghislaine Maxwell was there to open the gates, to provide the support and also the protection, because Jeffrey Epstein was not protected as such. Ghislaine Maxwell was, because she knew a lot of things from her father. I'm sure she inherited of a lot of intelligence from the father. So she knew she had a lot of things on a lot of people, and I think important people in this world knew about that.
Yeah, those schools he joined had the administrators and stuff that were procuring girls. That was all going on before Jeffrey Epstein came on the scene. He joined an already pre-existing network and becomes the face and runs around with money and flaunting this and that. But Maxwell had that for a long time, and she's the one that brought him to beat like Ari Menashe and stuff. Maxwell was the go-between, and they tried them at other stuff, but they weren't very good at it. They found their niche in this sexual deviancy that the two of them were into. Sick. Yeah. We should say what Jean-Luc did. Besides procuring girls for Epstein, he was drugging and raping girls himself. Should have said that in the very beginning. But apparently they would go to the clubs in Paris with these kids, right? Put things in their drinks. Yep. Yeah, and pass.
I mean, you know, I was born in the 60s, you know, so I remember the generation above me telling me stories about, you know, Le Bandouche and all this places, what was going on in there. And it was just crazy party, you know. It's a really crazy party. All the modeling agencies, all the scouts will bring the young girls. They were 14 years old, some of them even 13 and younger. The toilets was basically a place for, you know, where drug dealers will be there. Cocaine will be available for everyone. They'll do it on the table. A girl will be just meat, you know. They'll be treated like meat. It was just awful.
It's like Bolivia today. Yeah, pretty much. You look younger than that, by the way. I would have pegged you in the 70s.
Yeah, I'll try to keep fit, you know, and I've got a young wife.
There you go. Oh, you took the yellow pill too. We both went Asian. The gold pill.
So there you have it. So, as I said, you know, I really agree with you as far as Darren Endyke. These guys have been evading for quite some time, same as Richard Kahn. They've been evading prosecutions. They've been, more importantly, evading to be deposed, you know, as far as being under oath and starting to give us some answers, because they really know everything. They have the intelligence. You know, we know that they took some of the material from the Albria Villa in Florida and Miami. They took all the computers. They were recovered. We know Richard Kahn. I mean, we have him with pictures coming out of the Epstein's house in Manhattan, you know. So we know these guys were there to clean up because there was so much information. And also one thing that I'd like to add is Darren Endyke was living in this complex where the girls were in Manhattan. He was there for 10 years. He had an apartment on the 10th floor there. So he knew absolutely everything. He knew when what's his name, Ehud Barak will come and so on. So these are not passive people. These are people that are aware. These are people that are part of the mechanism of the structure, and they're here to protect, to provide a fence to make sure that Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein and Brunel, anybody that deals with them, are protected. They spend a lot of money on lawyers, Epstein and Maxwell.
I'll point out about Ehud Barak too that first of all, his administration, Moshe Katsav was the president while Barak was prime minister and got convicted of rape. But they enjoyed that period in the early 90s where something happened. There was the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the ruble went into the toilet. The old joke was, would you buy toilet paper or just wipe your ass with rubles? So everyone's savings got wiped out, and so you had a lot of people in the satellite states like Ukraine and that area of Eastern Europe that were desperate. And what happens when you hit the reset button on a country? Guys sell drugs or become mercenaries, and girls sell their bodies, or they try and get foreign currency, because foreign currency, if you can get that, you can buy up everything, because everything's down to zero again. So there are a lot of girls, young and naive, started answering ads and stuff to be a nanny or whatever, and ended up in Israel thrown in brothels. And there had no laws against human trafficking, because that whole country was birthed through human trafficking, understandably, given the situation World War II, where they're getting Jews out of Europe into Palestine. But they didn't correct that. So they used those loopholes to bring in all these desperate people from the Soviet Union. And Ehud Barak was in the middle of the whole thing, knew about all the brothels in Tel Aviv, rape rooms openly there. And it's not just Israel. Saudi Arabia, same kind of crap was happening all around there, which would tie in the Khashoggis and MBS and so on. We're not going to go down there. I'm just going to throw it out there for later. If people have questions about it, I'll handle it. But we're going to bring it back to Brunel. The Barak I had to say it. Like that story gets so much bigger. And when you've got the prime minister of a state, the principal state of human trafficking, also the state that started MC Squared, which was Jean Luc's modeling agency in the U.S., visiting in person in New York, there's only one reason. If you're gathering intelligence, you can send a guy, to go get it and bring it to you. You don't got to go in person. There's only one reason to visit Epstein in person, and that's because you're playing around at his house, which is what Dershowitz did. That is what James E. Staley did from the financial institutions. While he was in jail, by the way, on work leave, he's meeting with people from J.P. Morgan and Bear Stearns in person at his Palm Beach place. None of the cops inside, by the way. Sick. But we're getting him. It's starting to unravel. Are you excited about this? Do you think he'll survive prison and not get Arkancided?
Yeah, probably. I mean, this is, I believe that there is a reason. Everything is politic in this saga. So whether you talk about Epstein, Jean Luc Brunel, Ghislaine Maxwell, it's all politics at the end of the day, and they will use it. They will use him for whatever purpose they have in mind. I think at the moment in France, it's about to cool things down, because we're a bunch of investigators out there, and there's a lot of people investigating pedocriminality. So it goes beyond Jean-Luc Brunel. We have a much larger problem than Jean-Luc Brunel in France. With all due respect, we have to fight a bigger problem, which is pedocriminality. And France is today, if you look at the data and the statistic from the travel industry, France is considered as probably one of the top destination for sex, underage sex. So everybody's talking about Philippines and Thailand. We're talking at a very heart of Europe, a country that has been used by various, syndicates to prostitute young girls, to a wealthy elite, to anyone that is prepared to pay big money to spend time with young girls. That's been going on for a long time. And then you add up to that the pedophotographic industry, which is massive. I mean, the dark web is part of it, but it's not just the dark web. We're talking about
they're raping kids to death for $40,000. There's a whole large Italian ring that got busted where you could watch a child get raped to death, and you even had fathers filming their own daughters, and it all is sick. It's so sick.
It's sick. It is sick, and it's happening. You know, people are doubting. You know, people are very, especially in France, people don't want to. We didn't want to talk about it for years because people think like this cannot be happening in our country. This cannot be so dirty. This cannot be so violent because we're talking about violence against kids. You know, and this is happening with the internet. We saw it blossoming. Yes. You know, and. This is what the governments has to also to reinvent themselves all the time because the crimes happens in a different manner. It's all about making money or it's all about blackmailing. So either way, there's money to be made. And the most valuable commodity today is information. So it's worth a lot of money and people are ready to pay a lot of money for that kind of information. Doesn't matter where you come from, Israel, Russia, exactly. China. If you have a good information, you will find buyers. People will buy it.
China has a massive human trafficking ring out of North Korea because people in North Korea are desperate to get out. It's like rape or starve. I guess get raped. And a lot of North Korean women are escaping into China to try to get to South Korea, and some of them make it. But if you're young enough and pretty enough, you're never going to get to South Korea because the Chinese have the triads. They got a black market of people, of young Korean girls that they gather. And so it's huge over there. Big ring in Saudi Arabia, Thailand, like you said, France and the UK, and then New Jersey. That's where they're importing.
And let's not forget the Balkans. The Balkans extremely important. You know, all the bed from Ukraine all the way down to Turkey and all that places. It's a massive network. You saw Trump that has been actually somehow his name is popping up quite few times. You know, with this big orgy taking place with kids on board of a big yacht. Probably the biggest yacht you have in Turkey was there was an arrest made where some politician were arrested with minors. It was horrible, and obviously all the people that have been arrested, some of them were partners, some businesses with Donald Trump. So again, this doesn't hit the media.
Donald Trump was in the modeling agency. That's where he got 3 of his wives, right? Of the adult models. He's into supermodels. Kind of normal thing for a billionaire to do. Who doesn't like supermodels his age or 20 years younger, but not kids that I've seen. With all the attacks on Trump, if they had any evidence of that, that would have come out. So I don't really put a lot of stock into that. I mean, they went after him for all these fictitious things and said he was in Russia with girls peeing on themselves and stuff. What I've noticed is they're always guilty of whatever they're accusing, right? When they said, oh, you had a phone call with Ukraine, Joe Biden had a phone call with Ukraine and said, if you don't fire the prosecutor, told it to Poroshenko on tape. When they said Trump was getting money from Russia, turns out they got money from Russia for the mayor of Moscow to Hunter Biden and Rosemont Sintka and all that. So, and when you look at the way he's holding and sniffing kids and stuff, even when he knows there's a camera, these allegations about the women, I'm like, I think that's you. Your son did it. Your brother did it. You're banging the babysitter. It's like that. Look, that's the people. The Bidens bought property on Water Island right above Jeffrey Epstein, right? In the middle of totally didn't make sense as a real estate deal, but they buy this property. Just they're sick. That family's sick, and trust me, when that shoe is gonna drop in the coming months. But Trump sucks for other reasons, but better than what's coming.
I can tell you something that's something that a lot of people that sometimes they didn't make the connection because one of the main guy that was part of that is dead. But John Casablanca from Elite, the founder of Elite, was very close friend with Donald Trump, and they used to spend a lot of parties on boats, just outside of Manhattan, going around, the Liberty States and so on. But they used to have a lot of, fashion shows. Donald Trump bought the Plaza Hotel, made it available for the Year of the Look from Elite, a model contest as well. So there was a great relationship. They were two professional, but both of them, I mean, especially John Casablanca was someone that took advantage at a young age, I would say, when he was in France, when he was in Paris. Is someone that has an extremely bad reputation in the business. And this guy, this John Casablanca, used to describe Jean Luc Brunel as really pretty much, someone that was dirtying the reputation of the fashion industry, the modeling industry. So if someone like John Casablanca telling you that Brunel is dirty as hell, that's just telling you a lot. Now,
because they had been working with the New York mafia families in Atlantic City and all that. That's a whole other tangent too. That's pretty dirty. But it's when even the Kushners or Casablanca can go, that guy's filth. damn, how filthy does he have to be? If even like the mob is saying you're sick, you know what I mean?
I always blow my mind, you know, that these guys can talk about Brunel in such a way. That means that this really, like, these guys was not taking any prisoners.
When you're drugging 12-year-olds,
I mean,
that's
we all knew in France.
about as low as it gets.
Well, let me tell you something, Ryan. I tell you that we're talking about Brunel in France. We talked just now about John Casablanca. Early on, we mentioned Gérald Marie. Well, I can tell you today we have about 5 modeling agencies under investigations. The modeling agencies that have reputation pretty much as good and as bad as Elite or MC Square or, you know, at the time, Karen Models. Karen Models is not a bad model agency, but this is what Jean Luc Brunel has made of it. So you have the agency itself, and then you have the people behind the agencies. And that's what's important to dissociate, because there's still some very good people working for the modeling industry that are, you know, obviously there for the right reason, for the good reason. The problem during that period of time, people were just looking away. They were just looking the other way. And I have today enough evidence to say that at least 3 of agencies that I found in Paris, and I have the names of the people that have actually that have abused kids, minors, and they should also be arrested today, because we just have to talk to the victims. But the victims, all of them have made careers. Some of them became actors. Some people even work for the United Nations. So they don't want to, you know, they don't want to be mention in anything related to this kind of abuse, and that's why they're not coming forward. But we know about it because people that works in these agencies at that time, they're talking now. These are people that are 70 years old. They have nothing to do, so they're telling us that this was dirty. And you hear stories that are just mind-blowing, you know, blowing about what was going on at the time back in the 80s. So Jean-Luc Brunel is one, but I hope we're going to go for all of them, you know, and I'm preparing something on that, by the way. I'll put it out soon in January.
I dated a girl who quit Victoria's Secret, and then she ended up working for a thing called International Go Model, which was in France. And I asked about, like, why would you quit Victoria's Secret? Like, that's good money, fame, whatever. And this was sort of like at its peak, too. This is like when there was Stephanie Seymour and da-da-da. And she let me know. And I was so angry, you know. But then well, I can't say, actually. I'll tell you later. But I'm not going to say it on YouTube. I forgot I'm on YouTube. I'll give you some names. And, man, I can tell from your smile and stuff. You're like, yeah, we got these people. I have some information, too, that's like, oh, you just wait. The shoe's about to drop. Because this guy's a squealer already, right? Yeah. This is what's needed to happen for so long. And I know people are black-pilled in the sense of going, man, why is everybody raping kids? Like, look, this has been going on. It's just now getting reported, basically because of the internet. I mean, look at all the stories they squashed about Epstein, which is really about Maxwell. She's the one that really got the sweetheart deal. At least he went to some kind of jail. Nothing happened to her, right? And they all turn on each other and always like, I'm the victim. Didn't Jean-Luc sue Epstein in 2015 just to try and, you know, oh, look, my reputation's shot because you got caught. No, he's not mad that you're raping kids and all. I was like, you got caught. Now it's hurting my business. I'm going to sue you. Like, that's how scummy these cockroaches are.
This is the side effect of Xanax, you know. So Jean-Luc Brunel, you know, suing Jeffrey Epstein, you know, because he lost revenues. You know, we're in Wonderland here. You know, Jean-Luc Brunel had no money. He was broke. You know, when he got sued by Next Management with Kate Fates, he had no money left there. He was living way above his means. He was always broke. You know, I mean, you know, if you're gonna stay in an apartment in the Trump Tower, this costs money. You know, so to maintain that lifestyle, you need to get some income. And I think that MC Square and the money that came from Epstein kind of
it was,
you know, helping
Tel Aviv to the rescue.
He was about to go down.
They find people like that and they're like, oh yeah, one of us. But now he's finally behind bars. I know you have to go soon because you're going on Atwood in like 10 minutes, right? Or that's what I saw announced.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go actually on quite a few platforms today and tomorrow.
Well, when you talk to Sean, because I haven't talked to him since March or something, but I want to try and popularize this phrase. Prince Andrew is the Kevin Bacon of pedophile rings. Because Prince Andrew knew Peter Nygard. Prince Andrew knew Epstein. He knows all, like, they all know Prince Andrew, right? He's the Kevin Bacon of pedophile rings. If you could get, I'd love to get that guy to talk, because that interview was the best thing I've ever seen. Like, he's the dumbest. Either he's the dumbest person in the world, or he's just like, I'm going to tell you everything. You're going to know I'm lying. There's nothing you could do about it. Suck it. Whatever. But, man, if they could get him to do the right thing and just start naming everybody, we could wrap this up. Boom, boom, boom. Because he's involved in all of them. They knew it. And I would suspect he's not the only royal. He's just the one, the dumbest one, the most flagrant one that got caught because he was banging Maxwell. But we're going to see. But he is the Kevin Bacon of pedophile rings. I want that to become a thing.
I like that strap line. I think it definitely could get some traction. All I'm going to say to you just before I leave you is that as we said, Jean Luc Brunel was arrested yesterday at the airport. Wednesday morning around 10:30, and what I personally believe, and I'm getting the confirmation now, but I think it's he got tipped off. He got tipped off as far as he was just about to be arrested, and I think that there was some kind of escape.
He's going to Senegal, right?
Yeah, he was heading back to Senegal on Air Senegal. By the way, the flight is on Air Senegal. We find out, and what's interesting probably is that Senegal, for someone like Jean Luc Brunel, is definitely not a place that he is going to stay. So it was just some kind of a stopover, and I personally believe that there was a private jet there that was taking him to two possible destinations. One is South Africa, because Ghislaine Maxwell is extremely well connected in South Africa, and I know at some stage Jean Luc Brunel had to do something with South Africa, so that would be a place that, probably where he could get some support. And then obviously this ever field of operation, Brazil. So Brazil non-extradition law, so perfect for him. He's extremely well connected, loved by many people there, and in South America. Carry on and retiring in Brazil seemed a pretty good option for him as well. So if I have to say, probably Brazil will be the
he spent
the
a lot
next,
of time there in his past too.
Yeah, he could not land. If he got arrested, let's face it, Ryan. If he got arrested before boarding. That's mean that his passport, his name is on the database. That's mean he was not allowed to leave the country. That's mean that he was basically under huge investigations, and I think they had no choice to arrest him.
Senegal was definitely not the final destination. He may have been staying there a while, so he didn't have a connection flight or whatever. But he wasn't going to stay in there. That's 100%. I'm going to go and I'm going to bounce. But there is very interesting connection there in Senegal with Hillary and Bill Clinton and getting prostitutes for their security detail. I don't know if you remember that story. There's all that, but that's not where he wasn't going there to live out the rest of his days.
Yeah, I think they were there for different purposes, but I think as far as Jean Luc Brunel, it's not as complex as Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein. Jean Luc Brunel is just opportunist, was there, tried to make the most money out of it, tried to get away with it, and then got caught. It's got to come out. He knew they were coming for him. He was trying to escape. And we were just getting closer, very closer. I mean, we knew where he was. Yeah.
Yep. They followed him around for quite a while, and they have a lot of information. That's all we can say.
Drones are beautiful technology.
Yeah. Yeah. They knew. Now, they announced that they knew in August, but they knew before that. They've gone through all his little caveats, and they know his associates. He's going to have to snap. And the thing is, Maxwell's not there to help him. She's in jail. She's trying to get bail for Christmas, which is not going to happen. What we got instead for Christmas is, your top associate's now in prison too. They're all dropping like flies. Bam.
Let me ask you a question, Ryan. What's your view? What's your take on Borgerson? I'll give you mine after. But what's your take on Borgerson? What's this guy is all about?
Can I read these the chats that I haven't read any to the thing, and then I'll get to that. Because these people paid. Right. The first one says, from DJ Cogdill, I can't stay and I need to sleep, work nights till 6 a.m. here, then I'll watch it when I wake up. But go ahead and ask the question, is Rand Paul as good as Ron Paul? Why or why not? Well, that's not relevant to today, but no, Ron Paul's way better than Rand Paul. That's they are father son, but that doesn't mean like, oh, so they're the same. Ron Paul was a much more principled libertarian. Rand Paul's okay, but you know, he supported war in Afghanistan and some other things. They're just sort of, yeah. But he is sticking to fight to him. He is good for a Republican. Ron Paul was just good, not for anything. Ron Paul's a good guy, great doctor. Next one is S. Banker. I appreciate your great work. Promote your Telegram channel from time to time to share info on there. Yeah, I never do that. I was just banned on Twitter, what, 3 days ago or whatever it was. So let me see if I can get the Telegram real fast. You know, I'm not going to do that live. I'm just going to get it and deal with it there. But I will do that. And then we've got one more, I think. From Go Away. Oh, that was from S. Banker, by the way. Appreciate your work. Promote Telegram. Go Away says, did these freaks operate in Australia and New Zealand too? Well, modeling agencies are recruit from everywhere. And of course, but nothing like what they were doing in the places you know. There was no like equivalent of Epstein Island in New Zealand. That's part of why like Virginia Giuffre fled to Australia to try to get as far away as possible from these people. But you really can't escape the net. They could lure girls in under false pretext and then just take their passport away. You know, we got that story. So, but there wasn't like a huge problem. They have their own local problems, but as far as I can tell, there was not anything remotely on the same level as like Paris or anything going on in New Zealand or Australia. And that's the shekel. What did you ask me about? You asked about her husband, Scott Borgeson? I forgot the question that you asked me. What were you asking me?
Yeah, that's right. That's yeah. Borgeson. I mean, he's alleged, or I would say pretty much confirmed, as the husband of Ghislaine Maxwell. But again, cautious with that.
I call her. I call him the sugar daddy, because 100% he's a sugar daddy.
I'm looking at it as a purpose, as a vehicle, you know, because I think she needed to hide the money, and she knew that if they come after her, she will have the money will be blocked or taken away. My view on it that if she moved that money to Bergeson, knowing that with his company this could be kind of incorporated in his operation or somehow, but being able to retrieve that money if she needed it. So whether they were friends, I think they were good friends. There's no doubt about it. What basically made Bergeson leave his wife and his kids to go with a lunatic like Ghislaine Maxwell, I would say perhaps there is a possibility that he's interested also in what she has to offer. Obviously. The network she's offering, you know, the sex trafficking ring, you know. So you don't have to be married for the reason that we normally, you know people are getting married for, you know, out of love. They get married out of common interest.
You can do it for visa purposes, but you can do it for shared bank accounts and other reasons that help launder money in a legal way. So he can't just take it and run. He's obviously interested in what she had to offer. Now, it could be he's into kid fucking, and that's what she offered, but it also more likely, I mean, actually, when you're with her, she's going to be doing that. They're addicted, right? But it's the money, too. He's already wealthy, but a lot of these people, they want more, right? And she's got all these connections to other businesses and just all the highfalutin people. She did sort of drop out of the party scene for a while, right? And was hiding out with him, but she needs a way to move her money so the feds can't grab it all, right? So she's got it. She's got a wealthy family still. Her sisters are very wealthy. Her whole family's wealthy. But whether or not he's legally the husband, I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, he is, it seems like. But he's definitely a sugar daddy, and he's the one that she was trying to get to do this $30 million bail so she can go home for Christmas, which is also her birthday. She was born on Christmas. The
options are open. I mean, I'm actually looking more into, there's two things that I would say before I go. First, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested in New Hampshire. I think this was staged, personally. I don't believe in it for 1 second. I believe she was in France all this time. I believe she was in near Bordeaux, about 100 kilometers from Bordeaux, where all the Maxwell family or especially the Maynard family, the Betty Maynard's, the father's wife. She passed away now, but she still have a lot of properties in France. They had a huge domain. I mean, we're talking about massive domain there. And this is where all the kids, all the Maxwell come to hide after they're messing around with people. We know that Isabel and Christine got involved in some shady deal. I mean, one of them, I can't remember if it's Isabel or Christine, but they got involved in a shady deal in the on the Virgin Islands, and the company was going after them, and I think they were going after them physically. So they came back and hide with their husband in France, and that's the first place they went to. They went to hide in these properties because it's really remote, very difficult to find them. And they have many properties there, including castles. So,
well, she had been to France 4 times, the UK twice, and Japan once in the last, according to her flight records and stuff. But she was going back and forth to the US. She spent a lot of time in France, and she'd been in Massachusetts and went to France and go back to Massachusetts, go to the UK. I don't know why she was in Japan, but she came to Japan briefly. I wish I had known. But when the property they bought through Borgeson in New Hampshire, when she was back in the U.S., who knows how temporary that stay was going to be, but she's around her sugar daddy. She's got things to tie up. She's also extremely arrogant. And this idiot wrapping her phone in tinfoil, like, oh, I don't want them to follow my phone. That's how they're going to find me, right? Why would you even have a damn phone if you're a felon or a fugitive, whatever? But
yeah, who are the conspirators there?
You know, but that's why she was a flight risk. That's the one thing they said. Like she knew, she wouldn't answer the door. They had to break in. She's trying to like wrap up her phone, and I'm like, what are you doing? They're at the door. Your phone doesn't matter, right? The story was a little odd, but that's where they got her because they physically took her there and put her in jail. And then put her in New York. So, I mean, she had to be there at least that day. If she had been hiding in France prior to that, well, we know she visited there. So, but she had been in the U.S. for months.
I'll tell you more. I'm not going to tell you more than that. But what I'm saying is that this New Hampshire tucked away house, there was a setup. There was an agreement there. I think she was threatened. Personally, I think she was threatened. I do not know by who. I've got a little idea about it, but I can't confirm anything. But I believe that she was threatened. That's the reason why you get a lot of couple of SS guys with her when she was arrested. Mm-hmm. You know, they had an English accent. You know, they were not American. She had a private
security detail.
Private security from the UK looking after her, and these guys are SS. So this was really big. I think she's been threatened.
It's the same people that they did not want to risk her arrest. They wanted her dead, just like Epstein. You know, but she got enough family to go, no, don't kill her. She ain't gonna say nothing. Da, 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 da. The same people that Epstein said he was afraid of may have been some of the same people that they all needed to be afraid of, because who had the most to lose? They do not want this going back to Wexner, because Wexner and that whole group, we all know what that's tied to. We know it's on YouTube, but come on, guys, you all know what it is. It's the one you can't say, right? And the one you can't say is the one that rolls over you. I know you got to go. I'm not pushing you out. I could talk to you forever, but I know you have another show, so have fun on Atwood's. Give him my regards, and we'll have you back on soon because we have more to say. So.
Oh, I've got a lot to share with you.
I know.
So
Me and you, we should do a Skype call later where we don't have to censor ourselves and then do a show. How about that? That'd be fun. I got some info too. I'm just dying.
Red wine, you know, you can get a glass of sake and then we can have a chat.
That's right. I will get some sake. You get your red wine. That sounds like fun. That's what nerds do for fun.
I like that.
That's what nerds do for fun. Researchers really can drink and talk to each other. All right, I'm going to commercial. I'll see you. Just Skype me later. Do your shows. I have a different show right after this one on the election. And So, guys, we'll be right back. This is Fred from the French Connection. I got links to his YouTube, and everything you're going to need will be posted at the top comment. And on BitChute, same thing if you're watching it there later. And this will also be on ANC Report. So he's got a lot of great research and interviews. We just getting the tip of the iceberg today, but you got to start somewhere. Jean Luc Brunel is in jail. Fist bump to that. Golden frogs all the way. And I will see you soon, my friend.
Thank you very much. Ciao. Thank you, everyone. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.